Folks, thank you, friends. Good evening. Have an interesting session from me. I'm Ravi Viran, login through Raman's portal. I'm the president of the IIA Chennai chapter. I have great pleasure in introducing Raman sir from the ACFE president perspective, but more as the one of the most knowledgeable speakers I've come across. And if I have to introduce him, I told him I need at least 20 minutes, so I'll keep it short. I don't want to cut into the session. He's a ACFE chapter president, currently chief risk officer, one of the biggest NBFCs in the country and one of the most expressively one of the biggest and very popular NBFCs. I can't say popular, very strict, respected NBFCs, Sundaram Finance. He was a chief audit executive before he took up this post a year ago. And his other designations include, I seem to be forgetting, he's a chartered secretary, he's a CISA, he's a ACFE, he's a legal person. There are 4 or 5 designations. There's a platinum thing on CISA as well. And then very interestingly, he has authored some books as well. And he's worked with the other big 4 firms. And then it was some other bigger clients before he joined Sundaram Finance 2 years ago. So I'll stop here. The topic today is on ethics in internal audit. We have a lot of slides. I've told him to keep it going so long as he wants to go, because his depth of information is so huge that you will be very happy to listen to him. And he's a big speaker in a lot of events, and he's one of the fraud and forensics person in the country. Interestingly, this is the Fraud Awareness Week. So part of the IIA ACFE chapter, we are organizing an event next week. It's in Taj Karimera. So we're inviting our guests, at least from Chennai, to join. We will also announce the short date on the Zoom link for virtual people as well. So just block your calendar just in case you've not received the invite. Write to Anup or me or Raman sir. It's a joint event with a full day event on the day. Thanks once again, Raman sir, to take some time. And I pass the channel to Raman. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi sir. I think you have made it more than 5 minutes, which I think either many of the attendees either should be knowing me. I'm doing this ethics case study in the last few years at least. And thanks for the opportunity again, inviting through IIA and from ACFE, it is a great opportunity to join together with one another institution. So the theme of the day, it is, not only on ethics as well, like Mr. Ravi was mentioning, Fraud Awareness Week, right? Globally, this celebrated well between November 13th to November 19th. We thought we would do many case or, kind of scenarios or stories. I would expect like all of you to interact. Either you can unmute and interact or put in chat box, whatever way you want. But I would like to know your views. The initial few slides, I'm going to share my slides. We will run through many stories, or like what Mr. Ravi is saying, I have some case studies. I would like to, know your views. So I think as long as time permits, I'm ready to run this, right? So let me share my screen. All of you should know, and certainly I'm very hopeful you know about the code of ethics and the 4 pillars. What IIA's code of ethics they are looking for, right? Integrity, objectivity, confidentiality, competence. I'm not going to, certainly provide more stories at this time on this slide, but every case study, I'm sure you would be able to relate to either integrity or objectivity or competency or whatever. That's the way it has been designed. As I told you, like I'm looking for more interaction. I'm sorry for next couple of slides. That is just like formality. What is the integrity? What is the kind of objectivity or what we look for from this side? So on the left arrow, that is a kind of red flag. A person lacking self-esteem, friendship, and financial stability or whatsoever. Okay, so You can see I switched off the video for the current because of could be a bandwidth or whatever issue. But going on, like, integrity tools or what on the left and right side you are looking at. A person lacking self-esteem or friendship or whatsoever, it is the typical, fraud triangle, if you know, on the opportunity, pressure, rationalization, right? That is where the integrity breach occurs. On the right, a person with a confidence, with a high esteem, strong support system, or balanced life. We can be confident like it won't happen. I guess like, I could see a couple of hands, Satya Praveen and Sudha and Natarajan, Sidambaram. You're able to see the screen. That is what I believe, right? See, this is all basic question. The first three or four you can see in a color. Do I believe this is the right course of action? This is a kind of assurance, right? From your side, you would like to take. Am I being just, fair, and considerate? But down the line, the last three, is this the right time, intention, person, place, style, whatever? Or could I make an adjustment somewhere? How I feel about myself after a kind of action or adjustment. These are all the kind of question normally a person is supposed to ask, because particularly they should not have a doubt whether am I breaching or crossing the line of integrity. So the more on the science of integrity, a person who is open to feedback, accept personal responsibility, balance need with the need of others, understanding and compassion. These are all, normally like, if there is a health issue, people look into a kind of symptom. For fever, it could be cold or running nose or something. I am trying to give a wantonly a different example, right? But science of integrity, it is something like this are all a good behavior. It is not a aberrated or some kind of a wrong behavior that leads into a point in fraud triangle. So these are all questions I would like you to take note, and probably your team. Is my action legal? If it is legal, is it also ethical? Or my action honest in every let me try to. I believe some of them they raised hand. It is not coming in full screen. Just give me a minute.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Go ahead, please. I think I am in fifth or sixth slide. You can move on. We covered all this. Yeah. Go on, please. Yeah, stop here. So this is a important kind of question. What you would like to, generally the kind of knowledge where a person, if at all they want to, think about even imagining very wildly in even in a dream, is something they have to ask. Is my action legal? Is it legal also ethical? What will be in case if the family members happens to know about the kind of action, the kind of adjustment, the kind of, violating the bar, or what is the conscience before my peers or the general public? Are we honest in all aspect? This are all kind of, before getting into a question of any of the four pillars, not just integrity, the objectivity or the confidentiality or the competence, this are all the kind of things you have to remember.
பார்த்தேன் அதில் பார்த்தேன் ஆன் பண்ணி வச்சுட்டேன். You can sit and see that. அவங்களே உட்காருங்க அவங்க.
Can you go on, please? Can you move to next slide?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So it is, you have to think about the right thing to do is not always the easy thing, right? You may not be finding it easy. Okay, why not we, just cross the bridge? Think about kind of adjustment of what I was talking before. But always something, it could be tough, but always stand on the line of ethics. Go next. Next slide, please. Okay, from now, another 20 or 25 slide. I want you to go through the contents. I can try to read, but I believe it is certainly clearly visible. I want expert like either unmute or put on chat box, or one of you raise your voice hand. Tell me about what you perceive. What is your comment? What do you think about if you are a CAE, right? So here, I'm not going to explain much, but think about this particular case study. Gopal is the head of audit or chief audit executive of a very leading travels operator. You can imagine it could be an e-commerce platform or anything. But one fine morning, he happened to see a full page ad saying with the caption, "No one has got a better chance of winning other than you," right? Um, it is the kind of tempting for everyone because the kind of gift or return is something Finland, people who know about Northern Lights or Arctic Green is something amazing. And no wonder the number of eyeballs, it has dramatically increased within a week. So what do you think if you are Gopal? Do you think it is like a misleading advertisement as a CAE, or you fine? Or you say, though there is nothing called generally acceptable marketing standard, it is just, for a kind of fun, I thought like put that. But you have to think through, is that legal, first of all? What do you think? What is your view if you are Gopal? Anyone can unmute and speak. But in the interest of time, I have around 20 plus scenarios like this, so we can move fast. You're not able to unmute. I think, can I request Anup or IIA people, Saravanan or anyone to help
Yes,
them
sir.
unmute?
Yeah, am I audible, sir?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, Satish.
So, sir, I am Satish Gupta, head of internal audit at Veras. I'm attending this one now. So, in my view, this is a little bit misleading, as it can pose a reputational risk, right? So, always it's not whatever is legal is not ethical, always, right? Is something which goes much beyond than the legality. So, this should be raised as a question
Okay.
first we have to understand their perspective also, right? So
Okay.
so it is better to discuss this in depth with the respective marketing heads or the person who has strategized this, to understand his perspective on this.
Okay. So, can you please do another click on the slide?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What if I say it is a language, right? English. The statement, of course, you read the second bullet. The statement, of course, consistent with everyone. I am giving an equal chance of winning, but it is a way how people can interpret in other way, right? See, when I say chance of winning, nobody has better chance of winning than you, that applies to everyone who reads the newspaper. There is an equal chance. Everyone who read the newspaper, who want to, register or do whatever action required, it can be equal chance. It is not a bias. You can think about. Again, all the case studies, I want to trigger your thoughts. I am not going to say this is right or wrong, or because these are all case study stories with only 5 or 10 lines. I'm not going to, or there is no big full background or detail that I can download, analyze, or do something. It is an imaginary story to trigger the thoughts. There could be scenarios like this, right? But what, as a CAE, what we can think? Are we doing a balanced judgment, a professional judgment? That is the key. You have to analyze everything, whatever possible. Go next slide, please. It's a very small, I think only 8 or 10 lines. This is about bot. There is a CTO called Venkat, a top NBFC. He was upbeat on creating, launching, implementing of chatbot. And that is through Alexa-based voice assistant, MyBot. you can see algorithms written based on the current profile, behavior, risk appetite, whatever, historical transaction. They've opened in new geographies, and later, a systems auditor, right, appointed, and they reviewed, they designed, certified the effectiveness and controls. I'm sorry for the name mistake. It is don't read as Krishnan. Venkat got thrilled, excited on launching of bot at the new market. But later, RBI issued notice for mis-selling, and the board, audit committee, everyone pulled Venkat. What could be the reason? Anyone, whoever, it is a guess. Don't worry about right or wrong answer. As I said, it is to trigger. There could be many correct answers. Yeah, I could see a couple of people raising their hands. Please unmute and, provide your views.
Yes, Sunil Kumar.
Yes, Satish, I could see few hands here. Anyone? Or why not you do a click again on the slide? Let us see the thoughts.
Again, sir, next slide or same thing?
Whoever want to unmute, please be louder. And see, there could be any issues, right? When we are talking about current profile behavior risk appetite and how it got translated through bot automation. And what is the kind of a mis-selling we are talking about? That is a kind of a judgment, and also systems auditor. What's the kind of scope given? Is it only design effectiveness and control, or looking into historical transaction? And how historical transaction, because they are opening in a new geography and there won't be any historical transaction in that region. These are all the things, a kind of, again, as I told you, it is just to trigger what, as a auditor, you can look into much more. The initial few lines or any story when you are looking into audit scope or getting through record, it could be different, but going for a deeper analysis, that could be much different. Can we move on to next slide, please? So there's something about where is my hot dog? So I'm giving maybe a minute or two for you to read. It is something on AI-based server, how it can assist you in choosing your most preferred food item. It could be idli or dosa, whatever I mentioned in the case study. But there is a technology at play, how the particular restaurant or, the hotel, Gita Bhavan in this case, they used algorithms choosing your most preferred dish. But then the case, something like Narayanan in this case, a lawyer filed for losing a privacy and even judgment for losing value for money. And if you become internal auditor, do you see, first of all, anything, any issues basically? Yeah, please unmute and why not you talk?
Sir Vivek here. My point is there is an algorithm that is built, an algorithm that gives specific preferences, and choice based on our past record or artificial intelligence patterns. And I choose to ask for a specific, through this channel, I choose to order. So by coming into this, I am letting myself consciously in to be guided by the AI. So then is there a case really for losing privacy, and is there even a case at hand? Because this is where even online multiple products, not just limited to this dosa, even car selection is happening online these days, where I'm allowing people to suggest, AI to suggest cars for me. So when I am consciously coming into a particular app, and I am letting the app, by giving information to it and by letting it know what my choices are, what my preferences are, by letting it make things, I don't specifically see an ethical issue or a case at all. Where does Narayan even have a scope for filing a case is something that I'm not able to comprehend.
No, good thought, Vivek. Certainly, I appreciate your views. The only thing is, I'm talking about there could be a possibility of AI bias. You can also think, is that not a trick? By looking into your past historical transaction, say you would have had whatever reason only few items, it could be dosa or idli in this case, and they don't want to provide multiple option. And what if they jack the rate, because anyway you like that food, and anyway you will be paying that, and already I'm tricking that. I am providing only one of that options. So what is, though you may say use the word consciously, but I am using that consciously. You're trying to play in your comfort zone. I am using that to exploit. And if I jack the price?
No, that is an additional information that is being provided. That it was on grounds of being a biased treatment. That is not evident in this particular note.
You see, as I told you, I can provide only a case study, a kind of scenario with few lines, right? It is not the real story, or it is not, I can provide like 10 pages what happened or what can happen.
Got it, sir. Got it.
With the given information, what can go wrong or how we can think differently, it is just to trigger. Again, no right or wrong answer. What you said also fine. What I mentioned also on privacy, for example, I provide all my data. What if on social engineering attack someone, okay, this guy goes only to Gita Bhavan and always take those, why not we try to capture that info? It can be of use at any point of time later, right? You can't rule it out. Think differently. That is what I am trying to, sell you. And again, case studies, I can't give everything here.
Right, sir.
Is it okay, Vivek?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Thank you. Can we go on next slide? Okay. This appointment of CISO, I guess you can read it. It's only few lines there. Kaushik is the audit executive and member of management committee, whatever the committee was designed about the CISO, which is becoming increasingly crucial considering the requirement by various regulators. He provided the inputs and so on. So you can read the case there. And Kaushik was asked to temporarily manage the role considering IT audit knowledge and experience. And Kaushik knows that it is not going to fetch him any additional monetary benefits. So what do you think about this? So can you please click on the slide? Yeah, go further. So this could be your thoughts, right? For example, RBI or many of the regulator, they don't allow dual hatting. It could be a case if audit executive holds another role like CISO and perform information security assessment or whatever. It could be a self-assessment. He may not, report the risk. There could be a case of losing independence. And as I said, CRO also can't, though I have not mentioned, CRO can't hold, but here it is CAE. That is a kind of, you have to look into multiple requirement. It could be regulatory, it could be from the audit, it could be a confidentiality, it could be objectivity, because balanced assessment. That is what, when I say balanced, also professional judgment, it may not happen, right? So though the person here, Kaushik, may be very knowledgeable, but we have to look through on other aspects. I hope you people are with me. Can we move on? Okay. It's only 8 lines. Your company used AI for recruitment in the last 5 years. You, as the internal audit head, noticed your more and more new joinees coming as women employees and above 40 years. You are told by the HR head that it is not a policy, but how the functional owners demanded. You are not very sure on this, whether it is right. So what could be the reason? Any guess?
This would constitute skewness in behavior.
Vivek, I'm sorry, your voice is either breaking or not clear.
Am I audible now, sir?
Yes.
Yeah, this would be, in my humble view, skewness in behavior pattern, which in my view would need to be aligned to the policy. And so the AI would also need to be fed in with information on what our recruitment board or the board mandate is, the company is. And though the pattern is different, that skewness will have to be removed.
But I mentioned here, HR head says there is no such policy, only woman employee to be recruited, or they should be above 40 years, nothing like that. He clarified clearly.
Yet if there is a skewness in the number, and AI is able to handle it very clearly, I think that data should be presented.
You can put another way, the just a second. By the way, I'm not talking about if any of the participants or don't take it if that happens in your organization or if you're above 40 or whatever. It is a case study, right? But let me come to the answer or the kind of a thought. See, AI could have been designed based on historical information, how the pattern worked in the past. There could be 2 functional owners or maybe 3. They would have recruited only few people based on experience, say 10 years or 15 years. So automatically they could have been 40 years plus. And it could have been a woman employee, but AI presumed, the way how it was coded, presumed all the functional owners or the company requires only woman employee or only above 40, right? That's what you have to think through, or when you are auditing, or particularly if it is a AI-based system, it could have been either AI bias or properly information is provided. This is a part of tech audit, but anyway, this is a kind of, how we can learn through. Can you move on to next slide, please? So I'm talking about the US NHT SCA is about National Highway Transportation Safety something. It's there in the second para. We are talking about self-driving car. You would have seen many of the YouTubes or videos or even in movies, I think. We are talking about, in this case, a real incident. It happened. You should be able to find out in Google also, right? If you are happen to be, I'm giving, as long as Elon Musk is not going to object and file a case on me, you can imagine you are chief audit executive of Tesla. I think, Vivek, you will not like the post, right? He is firing left and right anyway. Okay, so there is an autopilot, advanced driver assistance system, and I have provided about, it killed a couple of people in some county at California or Los Angeles region. And who is responsible here? That is a question in the bottom you can think. Your organization face a notice from the department and you are struggling out to find an evidence. Do you think it is a driver's mistake? And it is not driverless car. I'm talking about, there are two things: self-driving car without any manual control, and then there is a driverless car that is altogether different. Just to clarify. I think the Tesla has got, I'm not sure on the model, but one of you might know, you can say that it could be model number X or Y something that has got a self-driving car without manual control. So who you think, it is a driver mistake or mistake of the road user? They should have given way, right?
Sir, it should be a driver mistake. That is what I feel, because
Okay.
he controls. He first decide what route he has to go, and he decides on the advanced driver assistance system. He feeds the driver assistance system. Is it not?
Anyone else? But your company has got a notice, not the driver. If you read the case, they are also going to, if they file a case on the company, the manufacturer, would that be tenable?
The manufacturer should also decide in such a way that it should be, at that time, the driver should have the control of the car.
Additional kind of control. You would have read or probably know about tunnel case study. There was some very interesting, you should be able to find out either in the Google or some other magazine. But, imagine you are inside a driverless car, okay? And just imagination, if it is you are inside a driverless car and the car goes through a tunnel, right? And at the end of the tunnel, you are just about to get off from the tunnel back to normal road. But, the driverless car normally work on thermostat or the kind of, heat, right? There is a very small, you can call like a kid or someone like, about to cross the road. And a driverless car, again, it is all depending on the kind of distance. Though it wanted to, it can't apply a brake and save the child. And you are sitting inside the car. What you will do, if you try to maneuver the steering, it will hit on the side of the road. It could be on the walls of the cave. Then you may be able to save the child, but probably the person inside can get into an accident, right? He may not survive.
Yeah.
So what is the kind of ethics we are talking about?
Normally, after the this one have tunnel, you are out of the tunnel. The sensors in the car
About
will.
to, let us say, about to exit the tunnel, but on the visibility radar as a human, the person can see a child is about to cross the road.
As a driver, it is very very difficult to
There is
decide
no
because
driver. It is a driverless
yeah, it's a
car. It is
driverless car.
different
I
from
say
it.
I'm sitting at the back of the car, at
Correct.
the back seat of the car, and the car itself
Correct.
self-driving. But
Correct.
what to do? Even in the self-driving car, we find it very difficult in roads when the road users who trespass on the road without any what you
See,
call.
because you can't blame the road users because they will not know how AI programs or what is the kind of distance it will
yes,
apply brake, it
yes,
will stop safely.
Yes, I
And
agree with you.
you could have seen in newspaper a couple of days back in China what happened in similar Tesla car, right? How it went. I think it went through. He was about to switch off the power button or switch on engine. It went in a different direction without. They were not able to stop it when he was trying to switch off. It can behave, but are we talking about the AI bias or the code, the programmers, how they written? For example, if the code is written, okay, don't stop only for adult. And don't look for people below 4 feet or 5 feet or child or something. Or thermal kind of, heat sensory, whatever program they did, if they put like beyond 80 degree or 90 or 35 or whatever, it can escape, right? For
Yes,
example, if it kills an animal,
Yeah.
still, are you going to call like a murder or going to call unnecessary or kind of, because of a bad programming? Or as audit executive, how we in the sense can look into different way? How is it coded properly? Is there a way to check? Is that the bias being removed? I will not have an answer for all this. It is only
Yes.
again
Again,
very futuristic.
yes, yeah. And whatever it may be, these advanced things are easy. Okay, we are all happy with that. Once it is meeting with difficulties like this or this one, then we have to change our code or pattern and other things over a period of time.
Exactly.
Over a period of time, the safety aspect should be.
Absolutely. Our thoughts, idea behind all the case studies, it is to trigger thoughts, as I told you. And also, you can't be looking at the papers, the statement, the bank statement, or looking into traditional internal audit.
Yes, yes.
We are in digital world, and whether we like it or
Yes.
not, we have to look into all
We
this.
have to move on with the change in time.
Exactly. We have to move on.
Yeah. Okay,
Can you
thank
go
you.
to next slide, please?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. There are a couple of comments. Yeah. Can you go next slide? You're part of IIA team reviewed security metrics presented to audit committee. It says you are the only one who obtained certifications on IT security. The head of audit happens to be MBA from a top B school, apart from being an engineering graduate. We are talking about here about metrics or ROSI. Many of you certainly will know return on security investment, and explained it will be difficult if any diversion of funds or whatever. So IIA had asked you to investigate. I think answers are going to come. You can read this anyway. So initially, IIA is not inclined to go deep and rejected the suggestion from member who got a lot of technical certification, saying it is not practical or not required. But 1 year later, CDO was charged with approving a lot of hardware or software may not be required. And when the cloud migration turned into a kind of a disaster. So you were asked to investigate the procurement made in 2 years and found smoke with evidence on cloud adoption. So are we looking at a shift in professional judgment caused the excessive spend, or probably at the right time, you could have pointed on a proactive note instead of waiting for 1 year or 2 year, or looking into cut of the ego, say we are talking about the fourth pillar, the knowledge or competence, right? So if it is not required, IT head need to have all the kind of knowledge and audit certifications, right? You can depend on the team. It can be internal or it can be co-sourced. That is external internal audit. So that is the way we have to look at. Instead of thinking everything either will be all right or I may not have the competency, but go and hire the right competence. Is it clear?
Okay.
Can we please move on? Okay, wind versus water. You can read this, there are only a few lines. First pair or 4-5 lines, it is about exclusion. Normally you would have seen in any of the policies. I'll give a couple of minutes.
Mr.
Natarajan, you would like to say something?
No, sir. Sorry. I want
Okay.
first I want to.
No issue.
I want.
To make it easy, in the evening, I was talking about wind versus water. So I named the company as Titanic Insurance Company. Okay, Aparna is the head of that Titanic Insurance, met the counsel, that is a legal counsel representing them in the court, disputing the damage claim caused by a storm called Maya. She argued that the policy disowns any claim caused by water. That is there in the policy. It is written in the policy exclusion. Policyholder could not prove the damages were caused only through wind velocity of 150 kilometers or whatever. Because though it is a cyclonic storm, you know what will happen, right? So there would be a rain, there could be a water kind of, surge, flooding, all this can happen. It can damage any building. And it will be triggered by and large certainly through wind. You can't have wind alone and damage in a cyclonic storm, right? Without water coming through. This was the case. So what is your comment?
Sir, Satish this side.
Sorry?
Sir, Satish Gupta this side.
Yeah.
So in my view, as a chartered accountant also, we also always studied that substance over forms will prevail, right? So water would be there. So this is a classic example of mis-selling at the first stage. Second stage, a devil advocates. So substance over form, that benefit has to be given, pass on to the buyer of that insurance policy.
Okay. Vivek, I think you raised your hand.
Sir, this is under the clause of force majeure, beyond the acts of God, acts of nature, which is beyond human control, and in my humble view, may not require explicit proving, except the fact that the damage happened due to water and it was only during this period. So the need to prove damages caused only through wind velocity of 150 kilometer may automatically happen if I prove that the damage happened only in those period when the storm was known to be active in public domain.
But let me say, it is a case study again. Let me remind, there is a exclusion pretty clear. It won't cover anything due to damages from water, rising tides, surges. It all happens in any tropical storm or hurricane or all this cyclonic storms, right? And we are talking about when you say the damages could be force due to force majeure, that is act of God, if you say, or natural kind of disaster. But the policyholders consented, they would have supposed to have read the exclusion, right?
Point. I didn't note that, meaning excluded from all coverages, I didn't note. Point.
Okay. So can you click Anup? I'm not sure I put a comment. Sorry, can you go back? Yeah. So there could be two ways of looking. First of all, is this kind of, if she is part of or being the head of audit, is this legally tenable, this kind of exclusion clause? The policyholders, if they got the claims rejected, they can easily go appeal to IRDA or to any court that has got a jurisdiction, right? This may not be that easy because the only thing is wind velocity, whether you define 150 kilometer or 80 kilometer or 40 kilometer, but you can't combine and exclude, say, any damage due to water, because in any storm, if there is a protection due to kind of storm, it will have wind and water together. You can't say only wind and water is excluded altogether. That is the way we have to look at. And as the audited, they have a right also on a proactive basis to look at if the classes are not certainly acceptable. It is their duty, because IRDA or any regulator for that matter, they are going to pull this. We have to think different. Can we go to next slide, please? Okay. You can read this. So do you agree, speaking whatever abusive language or defamatory, we can mention something on libel, you call libel or slander. Is it acceptable? Anyone? Yes, Mr. Vivek.
No. One word. Even by law, that's not being permitted.
Okay.
Right.
But normally, if you look at law of tort or, looking into advocate rules or what is happening inside court, that is something different. You can't file here. You can file against a company, or internally you can take action or advise. For example, the head of legal is also part of that meeting, or sales side or whatever. You can take separately, do whatever advice or action required. But something happening verbally inside the court, you can't again go slap a kind of a defamation case on an advocate if that whatever words used, whether unparliamentary, abusive or anything, if it is inside a court, though it is not proper, I do agree. You have to know the difference. But in this case, a libel filed against her, because what is the difference? Slander is a kind of verbal, libel is written. written language. So if it happens in a print media and maligning a popular competitor, then there is action required. As a head of audit, Narmada can easily go and see what is the issue, what is the process weakness, why it got approved, first of all, how it can be, remedial action can be corrected, then all this can be done. So the case study here is two elements. One, there is a label for which IA head or Narmada can take action or can look at what can be done next or how to prevent in future this kind of things. The second is something only for knowledge. Can we move on? Can you go to next slide, please? I think the font size appear to be small, but if you can read, ABC is a bank failed to comply with applicable digital lending norms of RBI. That is a very strong statement. A bank, Ganesh, who availed 3 types of loan with the ABC Bank, got surprised, right? He got received offer from another bank. It could be another quite popular bank in the market. They quoted a very competitive offer that tempted Ganesh. That's a background. If you are Ganesh or Ganesh happen to be very curious, how you got to know the loan details, the current balance, outstanding, everything. So he checked with the auditors of ABC and asked about the robust privacy control if practiced at ABC. You can see the answer auditors gave, like they rely on the internal auditors of the bank. So probably the stat auditor, which is nothing wrong, but they rely on the internal auditor statement. Ganesh also went to XYZ and understood there is no hacker or kind of implant, that is corporate espionage. Later, he learned the control practice over data security never existed. There is a name for the internal audited, Striya of ABC and Ananya of another bank met at a coffee shop. So do you find any issue on the 4 pillars of code of ethics for internal audit or from the ACFE side, whatever? I'm sorry, like, what is the thoughts? Anyone? Okay, can you please, Anup, do a couple of clicks? Can you go back? Sorry. So you understand on social engineering skill, first of all, the auditors of ABC or XYZ, whether ABC Bank did wrong or XYZ did wrong, they need not provide all information, right? About systems reliance from, whatever certification from systems auditor. Is that correct? So that is where you have to look into where probably, the gaps could have been. Just so you agree with me, right? The last, the two people, head of auditor, Sriya and Ananya, whether they met at a coffee shop or not, I think that could be on more professional best practices or knowledge sharing. It is a more misleading kind of trigger in this case study. I have seen in many forum people talk about, they should not have spoken, discussed, or something. It has got nothing to do with the Ganesh, right? Sometimes when we do investigation, we may get unfortunately got misled and will be searching something else, but leaving the key points. Can you move on, please? Okay, I'm using the word phishing, not the phishing, PHI. You can take a couple of minutes, please go through. So I think you would understand this, right? The last para, if you have read, see, there was an email from that account. The account got hacked, went to the bank and saying, okay, probably hacked by a fraudster and want to claim. So bank is sending a 4-digit code to the mobile number. But the banker, whoever operated or provided info, also said, sorry, the person who called the bank also informed like my mobile number would have got changed by the hacker as he already hacked my email account. So please take this my new mobile number, provide me the 4-digit code. The banker very well provided the 4-digit whatever OTP. So Arkirtha was speaking and requesting an update. So you as a CAE of that bank, you think whatever Akirta did is fine? Are you okay with the process? Because the email appears to have been hacked and then the OTP has to be provided. The customer, Akirta, was a victim rather, or asked for the OTP and the OTP came in and she asked for update of whatever records that was carried out. Are you okay with this? Okay. What if the person who called as Sakirta, fake as Sakirta, not exactly the customer, would have told the banker, okay, I am Akirta, I lost and my email got hacked and my mobile got changed and this my mobile and please provide the OTP. He got the OTP, he or she, whatever, got the OTP, then used to change everything, the password in the bank account to whatever information, amount got swindled. This is the case. And you would know many of this happens across. Nowadays, it is becoming very, very common. Can we move on?
So just one point here.
Yeah.
In terms of change of mobile number or email, in the current day context, isn't it to be done by the customer visiting the branch? So is that also a process lapse here?
Not exactly in all the cases. In real life also, either banks or NBFC or any company, they allow online, even if the portal information can be, it is all subject to the risk, right? Whether it is happening or not. So it is again, Mr. Vivek, it is like a case study. So actually, if it is an in-person request, that is better. But still, how the bank operator, the banker will know whether it was Sakirta unless and until they do other check, right?
Right. No, I was just looking at a process angle only. Even albeit this being a case study, I'm just looking at the potential risk. Is that really a vulnerability in the current day context? Because about a year and a half back, probably yes, but now many of the banks have resorted to taking if a change of email ID or a mobile number only by a visit to the home branch, not even the regular branch. I am facing problem changing my details. They're not accepting. So that becomes so much more difficult to change. So I was just wondering, is that a process risk at all? That only that.
It is still, I guess it is still happening. I fully understand as a banker, you would know better, but I read newspaper or some info across. It is kind of thing happen because the fraudster, for example, if they do social engineering, they know how to or which person to reach and try to get a waiver of in-person visit and get everything done over. And the bank audit is going to on the process whether in-person visit happened or not. Nobody is going to check on everyday basis. And even if it is going to be audited, the scope is not going to look into hundreds of transactions if that happens in 1 year, which may not be that difficult also, right? It can
Right.
happen, but audit scope would be limited.
Sure. Thank you, sir.
So there is a possibility, if you look at more on, that is the reason I said phishing. Using the language, I mean the spelling differently, it is like a social engineering. If I happen to know who in a particular home branch, right, who need to, assist for providing the OTP or change of password or whatever, revolving around this, I do is socialize over a period. And again, all this attack need not happen overnight, right? Slow and steady, certainly they will do. They will analyze before getting into. So if they can do it, there could be a process exactly like what you mentioned at the bank, but there could be a process gap or deviation from the process. That is always possible. Can we move on?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, it's close to one of the previous case study. You can see who is liable when a kills. You can, in the interest of lot of other case studies still I have, you can go through this. Let me give you a minute or two. So the bottom of the slide, you can see New York already they passed a law that require conduct audit to assess AI bias, and particularly on gender, race, or whatever. As I told you about tunnel case study, it could be about the programming. It could be, if the programmer mind probably is favoring only grandmother or only child or only adult or only animals or only whatever, it can, if unnoticed, again, if it is not, if it is possible to get escape through, nobody is going to review at each and every level. But what will happen when the event or this kind of incident happens, that becomes a problem for the organization. And there is always, now already people started with a lot of case laws on that, though I mentioned 1 year. So move on, please. Okay. Fraud in data analytics. I'll give you a couple of minutes. Please go through. Okay. So many of you would have gone through the way how in data analytics, for example, is this like, start with building a profile of potential fraud, obtain the data, verify clients, and then analyze, or the other way? What will happen if it is done in a wrong mechanism? Again, like we were discussing, AI-based case studies, it can lead to a wrong result. You may end with either false positive or false even negative. It can miss out a lot. Because what will happen if the profile of potential fraud, if that's start, then all looking into historical transaction, it will pick up only that first. It will think through, okay, we need to review all this first. Rather, keep the fraud schemes open. Right? Can we move on? Can you move on to next slide? Yeah, let me give a couple of minutes. Please go through. So are you ready? We were talking about Krishnan, who is heading or leading the digital transformation of a company called whatever ABC. And as a chief auditor, you worked with him in a previous assignment. Though Krishnan was leading similarly, like you were heading IIA, he was heading the digital transformation. And in this company I'm talking about now at ABC, where both of you are working together, he was heading digital transformation and you as internal audited. And when he joined, he was looking into all the current existing or solutions and provide a brief to all the owners, functional owners, how they can create a digital platform, interconnect all the apps. And whatever the functional owners mentioned, he took religiously notes and looking into both current processes and the outcome. And also he did something different. He relied on UAT through external systems auditor of the company. So a month passed, many of the functional owners, sponsors found the platform as some kind of inherent weakness. They found UAT by auditors and IT or equivalent to self-assessment. I would ask you whether is it acceptable? Is this like self-assessment, or you call it like it is not independent review? And you got notice from the management to review the root cause, whether the design is there a design flaw basically, or the information when the function owners provided and then later a scope creep attempting to change the process. What's your professional judgment? That is the kind of question in this case study. What triggers you? So what, any thoughts at this time? Do you agree it is a self-assessment? Or external IT auditor, can they do participate in UAT? Is that allowed? Can you put a couple of clicks, Anu, please? I think I don't have an answer. Can you try one more click? Sorry. Yeah. So is there something wrong here, or Christian can say is not a techie and there is nothing wrong? You can rely on the information or on whatever the brief provided by the tech person, that is Mr. Krishnan. Is that wrong? You can do a balanced assessment, right? You can borrow whatever tech knowledge.
Hello. Raman, I have a question.
Mr. Ravi, you are not audible. I think you wanted to say something, but not clear.
So I'll put it on the chat. Hello.
No, it's not clear this side. I think I'm getting either echo or some sound. Okay. Anyway, I think at this point I will move on. You have to think through. There could be a balanced assessment. If there is no tech information, you can review that, and also the notes how we wanted to design and later how it went. Unfortunately, not met the objectives. You know, that can be a case of between objectivity and competency, right? Go on, please. Go to next slide. I think, Mr. Vivek, you would like this. The case is about act of God or force majeure. So let me give few minutes. Please go through this. So if you are ready, any comments? I would encourage that there is a subtle difference between supervening impossibility and a force majeure. Right, force majeure is something where, like earlier we discussed about, it can be nature's fury, it could be any type of natural calamity. But supervening impossibility is something, you know, where the human act or somebody, for example, who sign a contract, they become lunatic or mental issue, they can't perform, or the person signing the contract specific performance is no more, something like that. Supervening impossibility is something big, different. So going into this, probably I would call as a head of audit, you know, looking into SLA agreement and looking into closely on TAT assurance, how far it is possible. Is the other side, can they exploit the advantage of, you know, very loosely driven or very loosely written executed SLAs? That is a kind of role probably IA with a legal knowledge or with, you know, borrowing kind of legal expertise they can look at. Any questions? Can you move on, please? Yeah. Next slide is on you know, cloud fraud. I'm talking about your organization, for example, use both private and public cloud and from same cloud service provider. Part of the SLA, you have been asked, which is normal, right, to audit the cloud security of the vendor. The agreement provides you can choose your auditor that is of your choice, right? That is the kind of the basic agreement or the provisions made to ensure the comfort on security. So you have taken service of a Big Four audit firm to complete the cloud security audit, and there is no issue on auditing the private cloud. Your auditor reported, but there is another kind of issue here. Your auditor reported a conflict as a firm also manages assurance audit of the cloud service provider. So what you will do? Would you change the auditor, or do you think still okay, it is only cloud and that is assurance, or are you comfortable with that, or leave that risk of conflict or no conflict to the audit firm? You complete a job through recommendations of the vendor. That is, I'm talking about the next portion, that is public cloud. The public cloud server happens to be located at a different region or different country, Poland. Data resides in Poland, but local audit firm in Poland was engaged. They executed. Probably they understand the Polish language. They can very well converse in Polish language. They also confirmed all the security control as desired. Everything is in existence. Are you comfortable with this? Do you have any legal jurisdictional issues? Do you have any integrity issue here? Yeah, Mr. Ravi.
Yeah, Raman, this question on outside India is one, and can you rely, if it's a carve-out method, can you rely on that carve-out method?
Oh. There is also a couple of points on objectivity and independence, then multi-level service agreement, if not looked at, right? But coming back, can you come again, please, Mr. Ravi? You have any question or your thought?
My thoughts, if there's a carve-out, right, and you're relying the work of another auditor, is that not good enough?
Okay.
Is that
But
not
what if, sorry, please, go on.
Is that not good enough? Because it's outside and it's public cloud, normally you get a SOC report from other providers, right? And if it's an attested SEC listed provider or some local laws, is that not good enough? That's what. Again, depends.
But let me ask you if, probably the local laws of the country is not known to other auditor. It is not the language alone, if they are not aware, or if the server, see the jurisdiction we are talking about, that is the location. And also if the ownership happens to be, say, it is in Poland, but the owners are happens to be, say a Chinese nation or Chinese corporation, would that change? Your views would change? Is there any issues still or complicating the issues there for internal auditor?
Always my standard answer, Raman, is it depends.
Agreed. It all only a thoughts. As I was mentioning initially, we need to look at multiple angles. We need to look at the background and what if kind of scenario, if something happen, or if we need to, not even an instant or kind of issue, but even if we want to be more comfortable, what kind of action we need to think, we need to act on, right? That are all areas you can call either on your professional judgment requirement or your competency, right? Integrity is something different, whether the vendor can select a local auditor and provide and you agree. Is that right? That is a question what Mr. Ravi was also mentioning about. So again, the case study is to trigger, it is only few lines, but think through what if in the real scenario this kind of issues happen. Do we know all this kind of, through our deep analysis of whatever agreement or whatever kind of, framework for cloud that has been done? Can we move on? Please go to next slide. Let me give a couple of minutes. So please go through. This is a very quick, I would say only a few lines or quick case study, and the last 3 bullets probably can trigger your thoughts, how it can be reviewed. It is not enough if you just look into few days before the cutoff date and later try to compare, but you have to look through multiple other angles. It could be system time, whatever appears for loading, or there could be new godowns where invoice can be issued, delivery can happen from a different place. Is that acceptable? Shipment date, CCTV footage that the delivery vans when it exit pass. It is, again, the point is not enough if you just go through invoice and validate. Mr. Ravi or Arjun, I could say many names. Any thoughts additionally you would like to provide through your experience?
So one of the things, Raman sir, is this question of trending, right? You have the concept of trending, right? How much it was last year, how much was 3 months ago. So I will look at some trending, what they do really at the month end, or is it just that the year and the focus is on?
Yeah, it is for revenue. See, this kind of, where people jack on the revenue, and I have provided in this case whatever company name or some fictitious name or imaginary. It is like performance. There was a takeover of the company, and then for them, the so-called erstwhile promoter, there is a performance kind of a bonus or, incentives given. So there is a possibility, and this kind of audit probably it is a mix of, not only looking at internal control, but also anti-fraud control, how the assertions, whatever, so many assertion, and in this case we are talking about cutoff, how it is managed. Good. Move on, please. Go to next slide.
Raman, because you asked me. I don't know, because you had asked us, because there's a Big Four audit reference out there. But yeah, I think it depends as to what Ravi sir had earlier mentioned also. So the audit procedures will have to stay relevant today, and it has to work with what that particular business is also about, right? So those 3 specific checks, if it is relevant, and if it meets the required objective, I think they should be fine. But again, it depends. Let's say if you have a retail company, and if you want to, let's say for example, if you want to look at period and Amazon sales or Flipkart sales, if they report very high numbers, it could be true also, because they may have a festival sale out there, which is very closer to a period end also. So that might then not put up a red flag, right? So we need to understand what the underlying business is, and where is it, whether it is relevant, whether the procedures that we tailor will meet the objective that we're trying to achieve.
Absolutely. We have to go deeper into that. And, there could be a kind of festival sale or year-end sale or something also, but we need to, I'm providing kind of, from fraud perspective, or what you can check, or from, is that all this are all checked? For example, a system, clock, or if it has passed through beyond midnight on the cutoff date, right? That is an area where people can look at.
Right.
I just have a point.
Yes, Mr. Shankar.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking the previous maybe 1 or 2 examples that you gave. I was just trying to work out in my mind, and to what extent there's an ethical issue there, or any of the four pillars of ethics. Is that anywhere violated, or are you just giving an example?
I'm looking at knowledge. It is only a kind of case study. We need, as an auditor, we need to look into beyond. And it is not that all the case studies are only on integrity issue.
Right. Okay. No, I think that is more to do with proficiency, not competency, but
Right.
proficiency, I guess. Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
So this slide is about you can say objectivity and be smart. Let us take a couple of minutes. Please go through this. So the takeaway here is the last couple of points on comment. What do you want to track and analyze versus a fashion? And is it enough, like, gives 90% accuracy? Because all of us, we know any smart device, you can't expect everything properly programmed, properly capable to analyze whatever be the parameters, right? You can say algorithms could be wrong or translated into a kind of a wrong number. Maybe, may not be, but by and large, with the kind of conditions or even the disclaimers, if you call on the smart device, it could be okay on 90% accuracy. That's all thoughts, basically. It may not be integrity issue again, but as IAD, internal audit department, or internal auditors, or chief audit executive, it could be different ways of looking at. Yes, Mr. Ravi.
So what do you assume you do smart work? You have to be smart, not and efficient, or maybe quality should be priority. Smart is equal to quality, but I don't know, efficiency also.
The kind of ethics here is, I would call, more the kind of a balanced assessment. I would say use your professional judgment there, and you can't expect something, people to people or the device or looking into the food or lunch or snack and think it can be super perfect. It's a balanced assessment.
Unfortunately, today's world, we're seeing a lot of health issues, right? Based on all these things, maybe.
So are you using the device, smart device, getting into anxiety mode? That is a different, altogether a different, your own internal audit on your health system. That is what I would tell anyone. It is good to have a smart device, good to track your, whether it is pulse or BP or whatever levels, oxygen, anything, but too much looking into the number, like what they would do on analyzing data in office, that's going to be not a great sign. That is a different takeaway.
No. Then you are saying data is misleading, or statistics makes a fool, or something like that. That's a corollary, right?
It is all like a case studies what we went through in some time back. It all depends, depending on how you take. Is the vote is proper, votes food, or it could be dosa is good, or really the devices are capable, the algorithms or whatever, the tech parameters can really translate close to the pulse. Even if we are talking about even the BP apparatus used by every doctor or between doctor to doctors, the stegnomanometer or whatever they call, right? That has got a difference. If couple of ECG taken within 2 hours, that could have a slight difference. That is possible. So as an auditor, if you look at, are you looking at only 2% variance? Say if it is 99 is your BP, or whatever your pulse or trait, and outside otherwise it could be, after a food, something like very close range, 85. That is enough, right? Are you looking at that way, or go deeper for 1%, which may not be material? That's a call. Again, like you said, it depends. The balanced assessment and judgment applies. Can we move on? Not this. Next. Yeah. I'm sure all of you know about Gen Alpha. If not the last bullet, if you can read first about what is Gen Alpha, that is not Generation Z or Millennials or next. Alpha is something children born in the early and mid 2010 or whatever, and also, yet to be born or till 2024. I'll give a couple of minutes to read the first para about Sagarika, who is the chief audit executive of that company. Basically, she was talking about, taking time to map controls versus perceived risk and write a kind of SOP. And this is not done. This is what head of operations said. It is all very dynamic. It is on the fly movement. The kids are kids, but also, there is a report which I mentioned also. It's available in Google, McCrindle. You can see the kind of amount, $500 billion spent is influenced through Gen Alpha. And India is one of the top 3 countries in the world where Gen Alpha is influencing. So the question here, she accepted from high risk to low, considering the business will be on fast moving trend. Yes, Mr. Ravi. Or anybody. We can say it is all like, it depends. There are multiple factors, but at the same time, she's talking about her own experience and that of colleagues, neighbors, or anybody where they are fast. And many of the kids nowadays, you will know, they use voice assistant or better in Google or any of the apps, and they know how to compare the best features. If you're looking for a phone or if you're looking for a TV or even a car, they will know better whether it has got, for example, a sunroof or what is the cost, what is the kind of engine or any other facility. So it is not per se just internal audited Sagarika accepting head of operations advice or information about Gen Alpha. She did research and she agreed not only with our experience or neighborhood or whatever. It could be possible. It is not always we need to look at from a fraud perspective or from something wrong or we missed out something on the risk. It is not required. I guess I am done with all the case studies. I'm ready to take questions or, Arjun or Pratap or anybody there. I could see around 28, 30 people there. Any questions? Again, to reiterate, all this are kind of case study only to trigger some thoughts. It could be on the 4 pillars. It could be more also sometime on, how as a internal audited or as a team member, you can think differently. It is not on the face, what you look at always may be right. The deep analysis, people we may tend to rely based on historical judgment or the past transaction could be something different.
So Raman,
over to you, Mr. Ravi. I think I am done with unless anyone got any questions, comments.
Raman, I have a question here. So all these case studies, auto ethics, integrity, and all that. But how do regulators view this? They are very straitjacketed at times. So how do we view in that scenario? Is it judgment? You have to document more, or what is your view on that?
Could be multiple. See, first of all, I would say, auditor plays a multiple role. Whether they call themselves, they need not call themselves as kind of a risk officer or manager, but unless and until they perceive risk, they can't see whether the controls are effective, efficient, and also adequate, right? Or the design. So what will happen if the risk are not, I would say, perceived, or even they don't know how to perceive the risk? That is the biggest risk. So I would call the kind of you call documentation, looking into SOP or looking into updating frequently on the change in environment, change in outside economic or other conditions that happen fast. So are we geared up to that? That's a kind of question. That is the takeaway for internal auditors. You have to update yourself. It could be on regulatory, like I mentioned in one of the case study on digital or other compliance requirement. It could be many things. How we get update. For example, alpha per se is not, you can't rule it out. It is 10 per age of 10 years or 13 years, right? It could be more because many of the kind of spend that is the statistics which we can't negate and say no, it is not possible, it is not happening, it is the India, it's not there, not like that. So it all, we need to keep our ears and eyes open. I think we need to prepare ourselves, update ourselves, whether on self-driving kind of cars or it could be force majeure versus supervening impossibility. It could be many things. There could be areas you can call where objectivity and competence plays a lot of role nowadays. Integrity is one issue without I'm not saying that it's not important or least important, but it is balanced the way how we update, how we are geared to the current environment, and also be ready for what's happening or what is going to happen. Where to think through.
So any other questions from the audience? We have about 5 minutes left, but I don't want to take the full time. Thanks, Raman. So any other final questions? This is a very interesting session. When you look at some of the case studies, looks very real, but real life and what happens in practical life is very, very different. Real life and practical. So it's a big balance, whatever Raman is saying, and it's always the dilemmas, whatever the dilemmas, corporate dilemmas, audit dilemmas, board dilemmas. So a lot of dilemmas we come across. So any inputs from the panelists or from the leaders on the call? Okay. Okay, I'll take
Any
a
feedback?
close.
How you liked it, or I know sometime I was a little bit fast, but these 2 slides anyway, just for your information. You can fill with the pillars. So can you move to next slide, please? Yeah, this one question with that I will end from my side. I will hand over to Mr. Ravi. Who you think is responsible? Is it CEO or management or attorney or HR director or internal auditor or anyone? Though I listed only 7 or 8 here. My answer is every one of us. It is not, don't expect like only head of audit or HR or CEO will drive everything. They will. But end of the day, we have to, like my initial slides, are you comfortable with any action that how if it get published in newspaper or social media or if your family happens to know, will you be comfortable there? That kind of question we need to ask. So every one of us responsible for being on the right side of ethics line. Over to you, Mr. Ravi.
So thanks once again, Raman, and it was a very excellent session. Really put me in a lot of thoughts and confusion again, thoughts and confusion and dilemmas. But that's everyday life. We, as the audit community, we have to go through. As operations, also we have to go through. And risk community is a bigger animal because risk is more predictive than projected, or risk is more predictive than post-mortem. So it's a very important role which you play. And thanks once again for the patient hearing. And this is a recorded session, so we will be uploading on the thing shortly. So if you have any questions, let us know. We will write back to digital at IIA or ACFE. We will take more answers from Raman. Thanks once again, Raman. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Ravi, and thanks everyone for taking your time, that too on evening 5:30 to 7:30 or whatever. And thanks IIA for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.